Hi everyone, FatDragon is again here for you, and in this short video I'll show you how to access the ESXi host from the virtual machine inside it through the internal LAN network. If you haven't watched my previous two videos, I suggest you to do so before this one, because the lab setup and the current state are well explained there. Let's see our current network settings. If you remember, we set up the network in such way that we have one public static IP for managing ESXi host and second public static IP for virtual machines inside. And it's okay, but what if we want to manage ESXi host from, let's say, VM1? We can do this in the same way as we would from any other computer out there, and I'll do. I'll open testing virtual machine in the console window. And then I'll open Internet Explorer. And in the address bar I'll enter my ESXi management public IP. As you can see, I've got this VMware ESXi 5.1 welcome page. Here I'll download a vSphere client and I'll install it, but since there is nothing special in this procedure, I'll pause video here. After vSphere client is installed, I'll log in to the ESXi host using the same ESXi management public static IP I've just used in the browser. So I'll enter my credentials. You won't get this warning. And as you can see, I've got the same vSphere client interface with the same available management options and features. Actually, there is one thing we can't do. We can't open testing virtual machine in the console window because we are already in the testing virtual machine, so it doesn't make sense anyway. Of course, any other machine we can open. So we are able to manage ESXi from inside it, but there is one more way to do so, and I'll go back to our network blueprint to explain what we'll do next and why we will do it. Here's our blueprint again, and as we've just saw, we are able to manage the ESXi from the virtual machine inside it through this path. And as you can see, this path goes through WAN network. We have one more option. We can connect VMkernel to the internal switch and to manage ESXi by accessing it directly through LAN network. There are two reasons for such setup. The first reason is to provide some kind of redundancy so that we can access the ESXi host even if something is wrong with the WAN and we can't access it through the public IP. For example, this can happen if we make mistake and assign this public static IP to some other machine and cause the IP conflict this way. In this scenario, we won't be able to use this public IP anymore, but still we will be able to access the virtual machine inside through the second IP and VPN. And if we have VPN access, we will be able to open the virtual machine through the remote desktop and start vSphere client, connect it to the ESXi through its LAN IP, and troubleshoot and resolve the IP conflict. The second reason can be connecting the ESXi host to the vCenter server which resides on some virtual machine in the LAN. Again, it would be possible to connect the ESXi to vCenter by using public IP, but there could be some significant drawbacks which I'll explain in one of my following videos on installing vCenter server in multiple host scenario. Now we know why. Let's see how. Actually, it will be much easier and faster to accomplish this than to explain why we should do this. Let's go. The first and only thing to do is to connect VMkernel to the internal switch. To do so, I'll go to Configuration tab, Networking node, and I'll click Properties next to the internal switch. Here I'll click Add button, and since this time I want to connect the VMkernel, I'll select this second option and click Next. I won't change network label nor VLAN ID, but I do want to use this port group for management traffic, so I'll check this third checkbox option. I won't explain other checkbox options here, and I'll click Next. On the IP settings page, I should enter LAN IP address I want to assign to the ESXi. As you can remember, we are using 192.168.1.0 network, and address 192.168.1.1 is already occupied by DDWRT, so we can't use it here. The same thing is for addresses from 100 to 150, which are reserved for DHCP server. Other addresses are free at the moment, so I'll choose 192.168.1.2 and I'll enter subnet mask. But I won't change default gateway, because it would change the gateway on other VMkernel ports, including the external one, and we definitely don't want to do this. And just one more note. Although here we have option to select automatically assigning IP address, I don't recommend doing so. I'll click Next, Finish, Close. And as you can see in the network diagram, the internal switch now also has VMkernel port and VMK1 inside it. Let's go to the virtual machine and try to connect to the ESXi through this new port. This time I'll enter this newly assigned LAN IP and the same credentials, of course. And as you can see, we are connected. This is all for this video. I hope you found something useful here. If you like my videos, don't forget to support me by subscribing, liking, sharing, loving me. See you soon, be cool.